Alright, so I finally did it, people. We have finally made it. I have finished ReZero Volume 2 Extra. Now, I mean, this story was absolutely amazing, heartfelt. It was honestly just so much better than I thought. When I originally entered this volume, I had no idea what to expect. It was definitely not going to be the usual ReZero, so I definitely expected that. Came in this open-minded. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about here. I'm not really going to be organizing the video too well, so this is kind of just a random afterthought video on the entire manga. So yeah, without any further ado, let's just jump right in to my thoughts and opinions on ReZero Volume 2 of the Extra series, the love song of the Sword Devil. Let's jump right into this video. So first off, we start the story. We got our boy Grimm. So Grimm's the new character. I really love Grimm. Y'all know, if y'all watching this, y'all read the story, so I don't think I need to really go through the summary of what happens. But Grimm's development throughout the story is absolutely incredible. I love his character. He's super down to earth. I really enjoyed how he's just a guy from a small village, wanted to live a better life, a more exciting life in the battlefield, but then he realizes that that's not the life he truly desires as he sees what the battlefield truly is. He loses friends throughout the entire story. Castor Fields, freaking Aya Swamp. Again and again, Grimm has to witness his friends being killed right before his eyes, and the poor guy loses his freaking voice because he gets his vocal cords chopped by Demi-Human to protect Wilhelm, which we'll get into more detail a little later. But this, at that point, that's when I knew Grimm is the freaking GOAT. Like, Grimm is the GOAT. Like, I freaking shed a tear for that man. Grimm is the freaking man. Grimm's influence on other characters is also something I want to get into real quick too, because it's actually very interesting how he affects certain characters. I mean, first off with Wilhelm, Grimm's the one who kind of reminds Wilhelm that he has a heart. Like, Grimm's always kind of there to remind Wilhelm that he's a human. You cannot be a sword. Grimm kind of counteracts Wilhelm's whole mentality, because we're also going to get into that later, but Wilhelm just wants to be a blade. He just wants to cut down his opponents. He doesn't want to think about anything else. But Grimm is there to kind of force Wilhelm into his more human side, remind him that he's a human. Though Grimm is not the one who fully does that, he definitely contributes to it, which I really enjoy. Then we got Grimm and Carol. At first up, Carol's just a, you know, kind of mean, proud knight who thinks she's the shit and thinks she can body anyone and this and that, you know, nobility and all that, because she comes from a family that serves the Astrea family, so she thought she was the shit, all that. But then when she starts talking to Grimm freaking changes her. She starts showing more expression. Carol starts smiling more. Everything is just better when Grimm's around, and eventually Carol and Grimm start to freaking fall in love, which is beautiful. So Grimm is just, he's technically like the second protagonist in the story, but I think that's going to be it for this little Grimm segment. I love Grimm. If I had to rate his character through 1 through 10, solid 8. I'll give him a solid 8 out of 10. Grimm's absolutely amazing and taken. This is not even the main character of the story. I mean, I also want to state, I also really appreciate how Grimm picked up the shield and absolutely mastered that. Throughout the story, he came clutch so many times with that shield. But yeah, we'll jump over to the next character. I'm going to organize this video through timestamps so y'all can know when to jump to. But yeah, we're jumping over to the next character. Alright, so next up, I want to share my thoughts on the Zergev Squadron. Now, the Zergev Squadron altogether, absolutely amazing. I love the Zergev Squadron and their leader, Bordeaux. So Bordeaux is a big, hulking man, you know, the typical leader, the typical Chad right there. Where's he? Bordeaux, there you are. Right there, so that's our boy Bordeaux. Now, throughout the story, this guy's pretty much your basic leader. He's strong. He's known for his ability to handle the axe until, you know, Wilhelm kind of put him in his place. But, you know, he's still a good fighter. Altogether, I enjoyed Bordeaux. Not as much as other characters like Grimm or Wilhelm or Theresia or a few others. I think I liked Carol a little more, Roswaal a little more, but like, you know, Bordeaux was cool. He's a cool guy. And then we got Pivot. You know, Pivot was always the brain behind the operation. He was smart, he was tactical, and then he even goes out to sacrifice himself in the battle of the swamp, which was absolutely tragic, to save Wilhelm as well. So we had Grimm who sacrificed himself for Wilhelm. We had Pivot who sacrificed himself for Wilhelm. So like, that's pretty sad, but just shows how goated the squadron is. I mean, they are like family, they're like brothers in arms, and they are there to fight till the very end. I mean, there weren't any other relevant characters in the squadron, aside from just those guys. those four were pretty much the most relevant. Zergev Squadron, pretty cool team. I don't got anything else really I need to share on them because, you know, they got slaughtered. Rest in peace, Zergev Squadron. But also Bordeaux's character development after Pivot's death was something I think I should take note of, because before Pivot died, you know, he was kind of more easygoing. And then after he dies, he's always talking about, yo, we need to exterminate these demi-humans, these beasts, these mongrels, these monsters, all that. And that's all he would preach. And then he became a lot more serious. The old Bordeaux was gone. He was a lot less cheery, and he was just out for revenge, which I can't say I enjoyed that side of him that much. As Wilhelm also stated, he did not enjoy it too much either, because, you know, it wasn't the Bordeaux we're used to, but definitely shows the impact of the battlefield, which is a common theme shown throughout this story. I want to get to the end though, because that's when Bordeaux kind of starts, like, he's better at the end, but like, you know what, we'll get there later. But Bordeaux, you know, if I had to rate him 1 through 10, he was pretty basic. I'm not even gonna lie, gonna say he's crazy. I'll give him like a 6. And then for Roswaal and Carol, these are two characters I want to talk about. I want to get all the side characters out the way. Well, they're kind of main characters for the story, but before I get to Wilhelm and Theresia, we're going to get through all these other characters. So Roswaal and Carol. So first things first, Roswaal. My thoughts and opinions on Roswaal in this series, female Roswaal in particular. So what I found interesting about this Roswaal is that this Roswaal doesn't have magic. This Roswaal is a brawler and she fights with gauntlets, which is very different. As well as she's fully a girl. I didn't realize Roswaal's technically genderless. This guy switches between bodies and he's like any gender. This guy's low-key like a Orochimaru from Naruto. Like, that's the vibes I always got from this guy. He has no gender. He's always switching, always living forever. But Roswaal in this story was actually pretty good. You know, Roswaal always has her hidden motives, or his hidden motives, I should say. He was after Sphinx, one of the demi-human leaders and one of their strongest forces, who was a magic user and is also a creation of Echidna herself. It was another Ryuzu clone, I believe, because she looked exactly like a Ryuzu clone. And I guess Roswaal wanted to get rid of her for some reason. I wasn't exactly clear on why Roswaal was trying to get rid of Sphinx, but I think he just didn't like her existing because she was like a failed project, and he just thought it was a disgrace maybe to his master. But Roswaal, you know, Roswaal's pretty cool. She kind of kept going for Wilhelm, teasing Wilhelm, but Wilhelm, you know, our boy Wilhelm's he's a pretty smart guy, so he was never giving in to Roswaal's temptation. You know, Carol and Roswaal's relationship kind of reminds me of Grimm and Roswaal if it wasn't romantic. That's exactly how it would be. Like, Carol originally was like exactly like Grimm. That's actually like the best way to describe it. So yeah, Roswaal's cool. Then we jump over to Carol. Carol, you know, Carol was even better than Roswaal. Carol, with the whole Theresia backstory we got near the end of the story, just made her so much better. She was actually assigned with watching Theresia, and at first she could never understand why she had to watch her, because she was told that this little girl was the sword saint, but she couldn't believe it because she seen no hints of Theresia having any skill with the blade. So as time goes on, we got our girl Carol, who's wondering, what is going on? Are you really the sword saint? So one day, you know, she tries to grab her sword and she tries attacking Theresia. She blacks out because Theresia absolutely body bags her. And Theresia, I don't want to get too much into Theresia, but then she learns to respect Theresia and understand that yes, this girl is the sword saint. She has unmatched talent. Like, she literally made Carol pass out in seconds. Like, Carol didn't even know what happened to her. That's how fast she knocked her out. But Carol, from then on, you know, she respects Theresia. I really enjoyed how she cares for Theresia, and she's really worried about where Theresia is going with her life, because she knows Theresia better than most people, and she understands that Theresia doesn't enjoy fighting. But at the same time, she also understands that Theresia is a sword saint, so she can never run away from that role. But this is kind of about Theresia, but like, it's kind of like Carol and Theresia's relationship. And then we want to talk a little bit more about Carol and Grimm. You know, I already stated that earlier. Carol, you know, she started warming up and changing because of Grimm, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Grimm made her a better person, more open, more caring, less of an asshole to Wilhelm because of our boy Grimm. And yeah, so that's Carol. Carol's an amazing character. I mean, we'll get into Carol a little more when we get to Theresia in a sec, but like, Carol, amazing character. I love Carol. Jumping quickly over to the demi-human side, we have Libre, Volga, and Sphinx. So first things first, we'll start off with the boringest one of them all, which was, in my opinion, as a character, Sphinx. You know, she was cool in battles, but like,
Her personality was ass because she's kind of just a clone. She doesn't have emotions. But Sphinx was alright. You know, she wasn't the best character, but she was a good antagonist because she was part of the reason why this story was so gruesome with her magic circles and her magic abilities. I mean, she was literally reviving the dead, forcing Grimm and other soldiers to fight against people they cared for in the past, using people's bodies, all that stuff. So as an antagonist, Sphinx was actually really good for this story. What Sphinx did to Libre pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. Wilhelm and Libre were having an absolutely intense fight, an amazing battle. And then Sphinx just comes through and freaking body bags Libre while he's not paying attention. And then she turns him into a freaking undead soldier. And then she later lies to their leader, the head of the Demi-Human Alliance, Volga, also known as Old Man Rom, and tells him that Libre died in battle. And like, that was just so annoying. That angered me so much because Libre was a good person. So let's talk about Libre. Libre was a good person. Deep down, he wanted to, you know, talk it out with the humans, but he also couldn't control the fact that he wanted revenge because he had already lost so many demi-humans into this war. So he was always in conflict, but then Volga would obviously just not care about that side of Libre. So Libre is always forced to listen to what Volga said because Volga just wants revenge. He has no sympathy for the humans. He has nothing in him for peace at all. And which is very interesting because in the future, you know, we see how Old Man Rom is. He's a pretty cool guy. It's hard to believe it's Volga too. Like, I always read this, I'm like, what's that? Is Old Man Rom? Volga is Old Man Rom? I just can't take it in. He's so different in the story. He's just hatred. He has so much hatred. But, you know, in rezero as we know him, you know, Old Man Rom's super chill. Libre and Rom, you know, the relationship was interesting. Libre was kind of more calm, calculated, and then Volga was just kind of like a tyrant. This guy didn't give a fuck. He just wanted them all slaughtered. He just wanted them all dead at any means. But yeah, and as an antagonist, amazing. I mean, they actually were pretty damn good. They put up some amazing fights, like crazy. Like Volga versus Wilhelm, Sphinx versus Roswaal and Grimm, freaking Libre versus Wilhelm, Libre versus revived undead Libre versus Bordeaux, which was a crazy fight as well. Absolutely amazing. So many insane fights in this book. Like, I would love this to be like a 2-hour OVA or something. Like, I'd love to see this animated. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Now we're gonna jump over to Wilhelm.
Alright, so our protagonist of the story, Wilhelm. Now, as I said earlier in this video, I shit you not, this story was making me contemplate who I like better as a protagonist, Wilhelm versus Subaru. You know, they both are absolutely completely different on two different sides of the spectrum, but I really enjoyed this story. This was actually a very amazing story, and Wilhelm's the reason that I was able to enjoy this story to this extent. At the beginning of the story, you know, Wilhelm's just kind of like a guy who's stubborn and childish. He only wants to fight, and he wants to become a sword, as he states. So he kind of has like a psychological thing going on. He believes he's a blade, and he wants to only be a blade, and he doesn't know why. And he's like always fighting, always training, and not caring really about the people around him until he joins obviously the Zergev Squadron, where that changes him. Meeting Grimm, Bordeaux, Pivot, all these people has started slowly changing Wilhelm, and he hadn't even realized it himself, but as a reader you can see Wilhelm slowly start changing. He has a little more compassion. He starts responding to his squad mates when they say something to him. In the past he would just ignore them. So many small changes, but over time they start gradually getting bigger and bigger, and we see as Wilhelm progresses and starts showing more emotion, showing more expression, and being more than just a mindless blade, showing that even the sword devil has a heart throughout the story, especially when we get to the Aya Swamp incident, the Aya Swamp battle, where half the squadron, or more than half the squadron, 60% of the squadron I believe, gets absolutely slaughtered, and 2 of the squadron members went out of their ways to save Wilhelm, Pivot and Grimm. Grimm lost his voice and Pivot lost his life. Wilhelm was always, you know, the fact Wilhelm was trying to cope with the situation just shows he cared for these people. The fact that Wilhelm was telling them not to charge into their deaths showed that he cared for these people. And Wilhelm didn't even realize it. He never admitted it to himself. And then we're gonna jump over to Wilhelm and Theresia. Wilhelm, I really enjoyed Wilhelm and Theresia's dynamic throughout the story. You know, in between battles and all this stuff, there was always a time where Wilhelm goes over to this place. It's like a poor zone, and it's like a destroyed village or destroyed town, and he meets Theresia as they look at the flowers, and they always have these interesting conversations, or I guess not interesting. I find them pretty interesting, to be honest. But then she asks him as soon as he gets there, as he's swinging his sword, do you like flowers? And his response is always, no, I hate them. In his mind, he doesn't see the point of them. They're just a waste of time. Anything that doesn't help him get better with the blade is a waste. So he just could not see the beauty in flowers. And then eventually, as time moves on, she starts asking him, why do you use your blade? Why do you swing that sword all the time? Because obviously Wilhelm's constantly seeming like he's obsessed with this blade. So then he responds with, because it's all I have. And Theresia never gives him a response to that, even when he answers it. So I was always confused before the ending. I was reading this, I'm always confused. I'm like, we get it, you're the sword saint. Like, why are you asking why he wields his blade? Like, I thought she was singing like some kind of like from high above, like she was looking down on him, asking him why he wields his blade. That was my impression, because I knew she was the sword saint. So I'm like, why is she asking why he wields his blade? Does he have to wield it for like justice? Because that's what the sword saint wields it for. Like, I thought she was looking for an answer, like looking for a specific answer. But in reality, she was looking for a reason to hold her own sword, and that's why she kept asking Wilhelm why he wields a blade, because she hates wielding the blade, which is what we learn later. She hates it, and she's wondering why Wilhelm is so obsessed with it, because she can't put herself in the situation where she has to kill someone or fight in battle. She can't do it. This is why this story it's amazing. Like, that's why she's asking him. She wants an answer for herself, which I'm like, yo, so that's why. So this, I guess since we're already talking about Wilhelm, we'll jump over to Theresia. So Theresia's flashback, she's a young girl who has this ability, this natural talent. She can't really control it, and she also has something even worse. They call it the blessing of the Reaper, but it's more like the curse of the Reaper. If she injures someone, she permanently leaves a scar. She permanently leaves the damage she injures them with, which is absolutely busted in battle, but a curse. Imagine like you get into a fight with someone you care about. You punch them really hard. That wound is there forever. Like, you fought them forever. Like, it's just crazy. It's just a curse. Like, she is fucked with that. Like, she was fucked with that shit, and that's part of the reason she never wants to fight or injure anyone, because she literally permanently hurts them forever, and it can't be healed, which is just sad, honestly. And as a child, she had all the pressure of being the sword saint, all this responsibility, but she never did anything. She never really did anything as a sword saint. She watched her family members die because she didn't do anything, because she never wanted to harm any demi-human. They didn't want to harm anyone, but at the cost of her family's lives, she constantly had to see her family or the people she cared about die because she was unable to take action when it was needed. So it makes for this interesting dynamic. Is she really blessed? Is the blessing of the sword saint really a blessing, or is it a curse? So this is just a question you ask in the story, which is very interesting, because at first glance you're like, yo, she's OP, she's blessed. But then when you see what it does, the responsibility she has, being unable to be herself, being unable to be the girl who just enjoys looking at flowers, all these things weigh on her, and you just see that this is a real character, this is a human being. She has hobbies, she has things she enjoys, and that's a point that Carol was trying to drive. This is Carol's inner dialogue, this is Carol's inner conflict. It's basically stating what like the readers would be thinking, like, why does she have to go through all this? Why does she have all this weight on her? It's unfair, I know this. But yeah, that's why I absolutely love Theresia, and of course I love Wilhelm. Because they're kind of opposites, because Theresia, she didn't want to ever wield the blade. And then Wilhelm, he always wanted to wield the blade. He didn't know what to do if he didn't wield the blade. And then it's crazy how these two affect each other's lives, because Wilhelm eventually shows her the reason she should hold a blade, which is honestly just sweet and heartwarming. One day Wilhelm decides to go off on his own, and because his hometown's being attacked, the territory of his family, the Trias family, was being attacked, so he decides to go out there on himself. Bordeaux finds out, he's like, fuck, Wilhelm, what are you doing? And then at one point, Wilhelm's about to get crushed and killed by a demi-human. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, a freaking girl comes dashing through. Y'all probably seen this in the anime. I don't know, maybe I'll add the clip. But she comes dashing through, and she comes in and saves him when he's about to be killed. He says he wants to live, and that's when she comes through and saves him. And that is finally the moment where the sword saint of their generation took up her sword to fight. And her reason for picking up the blade was to protect Wilhelm, to protect the person she loves. To protect. And the reason she got this reason is because the last time they met, she had asked Wilhelm again, and Wilhelm really thought about it. She had asked him, why do you wield the blade? And he responded with, to protect. And that's why she decided to wield the blade as well, because she wanted to protect the person she loved. Which is just beautiful, freaking beautiful, freaking beautiful, freaking beautiful. It was actually insane, man. Like, y'all don't even understand. Actually, you do, because you read it too. But yo, insane. Like, I just found that so touching. Like, it was so beautiful. The reason she wields the blades for Wilhelm. Wilhelm gave her a reason, and that's why she kept asking him. She wanted a reason for herself. It's just great. It's just everything comes full circle in this. But then after that, Wilhelm gets mad. You know, it hurts his ego and his pride because she's the sword saint. She's blessed with all this talent, a talent he believed he could never reach with normal training. So he goes up to her, he confronts her, and says, "You're the sword Theresia van Astrea." And then she swings at her. She just blocks it with her fingers. He attacks her again. She hits him in his stomach, and he gets knocked out in like a few seconds. So then he's like, "Yo, damn you, I can't believe you lied to me." And he's saying, "Someone with that face," because Theresia was sad. He said, "Someone with that face should not be holding a sword." So he said he's gonna take it from her. And that's the last time they meet. So then the freaking history goes on. We see the years go by. We got the sword saint who's saving the world, ended the Demi-Human war, and then eventually there's a ceremony 2 years later. A beautiful ceremony takes place, and that is when Theresia is supposed to be awarded for all her feats in the war, and she is going up the steps to take her freaking, I don't know, her reward. I don't know what she was taking, but she's walking up the steps. You know, everyone was there, Roswaal, Grimm, all those people, the whole squadron, a bunch of knights, a bunch of soldiers, and a man with a hood walks in, and that was our boy Wilhelm, of course. And this man goes in and challenges her to a duel. He jumps in and attacks her. They both start dancing. Boom, boom, boom. Swords flying, sparks flying. The normal human eye could not see it. And then they're going crazy. And this part is described as a song. Their blades, Wilhelm's blade, or their blades, were making a song. This was quite literally, not to be corny, the song of their emotions, the song of their love, the song that defines them. This is quite literally a blade clash, better than anything anyone's ever seen before. And at the very end of the clash, both of their blades break, or I believe maybe only Wilhelm's blade breaks, but he kicks Theresia's blade out of her hand or something like that. Her blade drops. Wilhelm, with his broken blade, got it against her neck. "I win," he said. And then she asks him, "What are you gonna do next? You no longer have a reason to hold your blade," or some shit like that. And then she's like, "What am I gonna do next? The sword saint still needs to protect the kingdom. Who's gonna do it instead?" And then of course Wilhelm said, "I'll be your blade. I'll do it." And it was just beautiful, beautiful. So this is why I came up with this title for Wilhelm, the sword devil who gives and takes. He gave her a reason to pick up her blade, as well as took it. And that was it. That was the Sword Devil's love song. That was the name of this book. That was the build-up to the Sword Devil's love song. That was the build-up to these two meeting each other and finally realizing their love between each other and giving each other reasons to keep living on, reasons to enjoy life, reasons more than just whatever they thought it was, reasons to fully accept themselves. That's the beauty of it. The story is just amazing. There's so many deep shit in this story. Holy shit, this shit was epic, bro. It was epic. Holy. Whew. I've been going off, bro. This is probably gonna be longer than the last video, but then he ends off with a kiss, or he goes for a kiss, and she asks him, "Do you like flowers?" "I don't hate them." You don't understand what that meant. You don't understand. You do because you read it, but like as a reader, constantly reading this conversation with Wilhelm saying he hates flowers throughout the entire story, and then finally at the end we get that final realization, that final acceptance, where Wilhelm describes himself as not hating flowers anymore. And that was so beautiful. And she asks him, "Why do you wield the blade?" "To protect you." Goes for the kiss. "Do you love me?" You already know the answer to that. And then she says, "You know, I'd still love to hear it." He says, "Whenever the feeling gets me." And that is the end of the love song of the Sword Devil. Freaking amazing. I cried. I'm a man. I'll tell you, I cried. I cried throughout the story. I almost cried when Grimm lost his voice. Like, this story was so good. I've never cried reading a light novel. On God, I never cried reading a light novel. This is the first one. This has the feat of the first light novel I ever cried to. Incredible. Incredible. Final verdict, 9 out of 10. This shit was incredible. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. This was better than the last rezero volume I read. On God. On God. I'm not even playing. On God it was. On God. That's going to be the end of this video though. If you enjoyed the video, drop a comment, drop a like, comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Tap that subscribe button, tap that bell. You know, we're going to be going. We're never done with rezero. We're never done. We're jumping over to the 3rd extra volume while we wait for that next rezero main series volume. Or you guys can suggest another extra series if you want me to read a different one. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. Just the Hero is out.